So I have an introduction paragraph for The Stolen Bacillus by H.G. Wells. And if I was going to briefly go over our goal here, we're only going to do 3 paragraphs. And we're coming up with a thesis statement. It would be a general statement about the text. The author, not so much. So remember, this would be for a text-only literary analysis that they gave you on a test, where we may not know anything about the author. So when we're perfecting our thesis, we just really want to make a claim about some type of relationship or something we can interpret from the story. All right, and then we're going to have a literary element that backs that up. So some of the central ideas we could have expanded upon was this idea of deadly diseases, and science being both good and bad, and then the irresponsible people, the irresponsible scientists. All right, so here's what I came up with. The Stolen Bacillus by H. Wells was published over 100 years ago, but still holds relevance today. A bacteriologist is in his home lab when he receives a visitor with a note from an acquaintance of his exclaiming the visitor should be granted a lab tour. All right. The bacteriologist is unaccustomed to showing off his bacteria strains to impressed audiences, so he goes into great detail describing the fatalities cholera could cause if released into a water supply. Unbeknownst to the bacteriologist, the stranger is an anarchist and steals a vial he believes to be cholera. This results in a high-speed chase through the streets of Victorian London, ending in an ironic revelation between protagonist and antagonist. And I want to underline that. The story's central idea serves as a warning that acts of terrorism never result in positive outcomes for the perpetrator. So, irony is the literary element that built this central idea. So, this would be my body paragraph, and I'm going to introduce some evidence. Let's see. I've already explained pretty much the whole story, right? So now I'm just focusing on the bacteriologist when he learns who the anarchist really was, and then the ending when we learn what the anarchist really drank. All right, so we can say, um, the bacteriologist went great lengths to obtain the bacterium from the anarchist. Upon finding the anarchist, the bacteriologist was informed of his true intentions. After the anarchist proclaims that he drank the bacterium and was going to poison, he says, at which he waved him a dramatic farewell and strode off to the Waterloo Bridge, carefully jostling his infected body with as many people as possible. We can say he was going to poison. He didn't say this, though, and proclaims he drank the bacterium and walks away purposely making contact with the public. All right. So then the final twist of irony occurs in the story's falling action when the bacteriologist reveals that the anarchist drank a specimen that turns skin blue, not Asiatic cholera. Now, I need to explain a little more. So, when we say, upon finding the anarchist, bacteria was informed of his true intentions. So we can say, um, it is ironic that the bacteriologist so warmly welcomed such a threat into his home laboratory. We can say, um, this event shows readers how acts of anarchy could be being plotted by anyone at any time. So that's the part where we're showing this warning about acts of terrorism, right? So that's half of our thesis. We got to talk about something warning about the acts of terrorism. Anarchists and terrorists is very similar. So you could use those terms interchangeably. So when we say, upon finding the anarchist, the bacteriologist was warned of his true intentions, was informed of, why don't we say this, of the true intentions regarding the stranger's visit. It is ironic that the bacteriologist so warmly welcomed such a threat into his home laboratory. This event shows readers how acts of anarchy could be being plotted by anyone at any time. After the anarchist proclaims that he drank the bacterium and walks away, purposely making contact with the public, the final twist of irony. Oh, wait, this doesn't. We'll say here. The anarchist proclaims that he drank the bacterium and walks away, purposely making contact with the public, just as the bacteriologist's wife arrives at the scene. All right. The final twist of irony occurs in the story's following action when the bacteriologist reveals to his wife that the anarchist drank a specimen that turned skin blue, not Asiatic cholera. This irony, we could say, this final piece of irony shows readers that acts of shows readers that when anarchists plan plan terrorist attacks, it is always going to result in a negative outcome. And then I'll explain it. We'll do a brief closing. The story, I'll put Wells's story teaches readers that anarchy is never a plan that has a happy ending. The author uses irony to show that terrorist attacks can happen at any time So it is important to be alert and aware of, no, we'll just say it. So it is important to be alert. The author uses irony to show that terrorist attacks can happen anytime, so it's important to be alert. Irony also develops the central idea that acts of terrorism will always prove, I don't want to use the word negative again. We could say that acts of terrorism will always prove disastrous for those that attempt to carry them out. No. Well, actually, we'll say will always prove disastrous for those that attempt. We don't need to say the other part. And that is a 3-paragraph literary analysis, text only essay. So we didn't use any outside information, but in the next lesson, we will.